Chapter 19 of The Film Mystery. This is a LibriVox recording. All LibriVox recordings are in the public domain. For more information or to volunteer, please visit LibriVox.org. The Film Mystery by Arthur B. Reeve. Chapter 19. Around the Circle. "I'd like to have another talk with Millard about that Fortune Features affair," remarked Kennedy. It was the third morning after the death of Stella Lamar, and I found him half through breakfast when I rose. About him were piled moving pictures and theatrical publications, daily, weekly, and monthly. At the moment I caught him, he had spread wide open the inner page of the Daily Metropolitan, a sheet devoted almost exclusively to sports and the amusement fields. I went around to glance over his shoulder. He pointed to a small item under a heading of recent plans and changes. Fortune Features. It is hinted to the metropolitan man about Broadway by those in a position to know, but who cannot yet be quoted, that Fortune Features is about to absorb a number of the largest competing companies. Rumors of great changes in the picture world have been current for some weeks, and this is the first reliable information to be given out. It is premature to give details of the new combination, or to mention names, but Fortune's strong backing in Wall Street will, we are assured, have a stabilizing influence at a critical time in the industry. "Seems to be a lot of hot air," I said. "There isn't a name mentioned. Everything is 'by those in a position to know,' and 'rumors of,' and 'it is premature to give details or mention names.' Bah!" Kennedy turned to places he had marked in several of the other periodicals and papers, and I read them. Each was substantially to the effect of the note in the Metropolitan, although worded differently, and generally printed as a news item. "It's a feeler," Kennedy stated. "There's something back of it. When I caught the reference to Fortune Features in the Metropolitan, which I've been reading the past 2 days, I sent the boy out for every movie publication he could find. Result? Half a dozen repetitions of the hint that Fortune is expanding. That means that it is deliberate publicity. You think this has something to do with the case? I don't see the name of Manton mentioned once. Manton is a man who seeks the front page on every opportunity. You remember, of course, what Millard told us. Somehow I smell a rat. If nothing else develops for this morning, I want to find Millard and talk to him again. I believe Manton is up to something." The sharp sound of our buzzer interrupted us. Because I was on my feet, I went to the door. To my amazement, I found it was Phelps who was our very early visitor. "I hope you'll excuse this intrusion," he apologized to Kennedy, pushing by me with the rudeness which seemed inherent in the man. Then he recognized the sheet still spread out on the table. "I see you, too, have been reading the Metropolitan." "Yes," Kennedy admitted languidly. "There's nothing about Manton Pictures, though." "Manton Pictures, hell!" In an instant, Phelps exploded, and the thin veneer of politeness was gone. With a shaking finger, he pointed to the item which we had just been reading and discussing. "Did you read that? Did you see the reference to stabilizing the industry? Stabilizing? It ought to be spelled stable-izing, for they lead all the donkeys into stalls and tie them up and let them kick." He stopped momentarily for sheer inability to continue. "I suppose you don't know Manton is behind this Fortune Features." We were aware of the fact, Kennedy told him quietly. Phelps looked from one to the other of us keenly, as if he had thought to surprise us and had been disappointed. Nervously he began to pace the floor. "Perhaps you know also that things haven't been going just right with Manton Pictures." Kennedy straightened. "When I asked you at Tarrytown just 2 mornings ago whether there was any trouble between Manton and yourself, you answered that there was not." Phelps flushed. "I didn't want to air my financial difficulties with Manton. My answer was truthful, the way you meant your question. Manton and I have had no words, no quarrel, no disagreement of a personal nature." "What is the trouble with Manton Pictures?" "They are wasting money, throwing it right and left. That payroll of theirs is preposterous. The waste itself is beyond belief. Sometimes 4 and 5 cameras on a scene, retakes upon the slightest provocation, even sets rebuilt because some minor detail fails to suit the artistic eye of the director. Werner, supposed to watch all the companies, doesn't know half his business. In the making of a 5-reel film, they will overtake sometimes as much as 80 or 100,000 feet of negative in each of 2 cameras, when 20,000 is enough overtake for anyone. That alone is $5,000 to $10,000 for negative stock, almost 15 with the sample print and developing. And the cost of stock, Mr. Kennedy, is the smallest item. All the extra length is long additional weeks of payroll and overhead expense. I put an auditor and a film expert on the accounts of Stella Lamar's last picture. By their figures, just $63,000 was absolutely thrown away. Kennedy rose, folding the newspaper carefully while he collected his thoughts. "My dear Mr. Phelps," he stated finally, "that is simple inefficiency. I doubt if it is anything criminal. Certainly there is no connection with the death of Stella Lamar, my only interest in Manton Pictures." Phelps was very grave. "There is every connection with the death of Stella Lamar." "What do you mean?" "Mr. Kennedy, what I'm going to say to you I cannot substantiate in any court of law. Furthermore, I'm laying myself open to action for libel, so I must not be quoted. But I want you to understand that Stella was inescapably wound up with all of Manton's financial schemes. His money maneuvers determined her social life, her friends, everything. She was then, as Enid Fay will be now, his come-on, his decoy. Manton has no scruples of any sort whatsoever. He is dishonest, tricky, a liar, and a cheat. If I could prove it, I would tell him so, but he's too clever for me. I do know, however, that he pulled the strings which controlled every move Stella Lamar ever made. When she went to dinner with me, it was because Manton wished her to do so. She was his right hand, his ears, almost his mouth. I have no doubt but that her death is the direct result of some business deal of his, something directly to do with his financial necessities." Kennedy did not glance up. "Those are very serious assertions." "It is a very serious matter. To show how unscrupulous Manton is, I can demonstrate that he is wrecking Manton Pictures deliberately. I've told you of the waste. Only the other day I came into the studio. Werner was putting up a great ballroom set. You saw it? No, that isn't the one I mean. I mean the first one. He had it all up. Then some little thing didn't suit him. The next day I came in again. All struck, sloughed, every bit of it, and a new one started. 'Lloyd,' I said, 'just think a minute. That's my money.' What good did it do? He even began to alter the new set. He would only go on encouraging Werner and the other directors to change their sets, to lose time in trying for foolish effects, anything at all to pad the expenses. You think I'm romancing, but you don't understand the film world," Phelps hurried on angrily. "Do you know that Enid Fay's contract is not with Manton Pictures, but with Manton himself? That means he can take her away from me after he has made her a star with my money at my expense. Why should he wreck Manton Pictures, you ask? Do you know that bit by bit, on the pretext that he needed the funds for this, that, or the other thing, Manton has sold out his entire interest in the company to me? It is all mine now." "I tell you," complained Phelps bitterly, "he couldn't seem to wreck the company fast enough. Why? Do you realize that there isn't room both for this older company and the new Fortune features? Can you see that if Manton Pictures fails, the Fortune Company will be able to pick up the studio and all the equipment for a song? I'm the fall guy. And yet, Kennedy, all the efforts to wreck Manton Pictures would have failed because the Black Terror was too sure a success. In spite of all the expense, in spite of every effort to wreck it, that picture would have made $500,000. Stella's acting and Millard's story and script would have put it over. But now Millard's contract has expired and Manton has signed him for Fortune Features. Enid Fay will be made a star by the Black Tower, but she has not now the drawing power to put it over big as Stella would have done. I tell you, Kennedy, the death of Stella Lamar has completed the wreck of Manton Pictures." Kennedy jumped to his feet. There was a hard light in his eyes I had never seen before. "Do I understand you, Phelps?" he snapped. "Are you accusing Manton of the cold-blooded murder of Stella Lamar to further various financial schemes?" "Hardly." Phelps blanched a bit, and I thought that a shudder swept over him. "I don't mean anything like that at all. What I mean is that Manton, in encouraging various sorts of dissension to wreck the company,